Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rules of Engagement. As always, I'll be your host, Nick axslav, ranish, as we explore strategies and tactics used in the game of Starcraft 2. Today, it's going to be a great matchup. We have Seed versus Sniper played yesterday. If you missed that match, especially Game 2, check it out on VOD, 1080p coming at you, youtube.com/official MLGSC2. So, Game 2 is so amazing. We're just going to skip Game 1, skip that nonsense, go straight to Game 2. We'll take it in two parts. Do Part 1, then a little bit of a break, then a Part 2. Then, of course, Game 3, Game 4, and the series overview and viewer Q&A. Now, about the viewer Q&A and series overview, and about the show in general. You know, normally I just jump right into the first game here, but let me first do a little bit of a note from the editor, which is, of course, me. I'm editor and writer of the show. And I want to say, you know, one of the ideas I've had coming into the show is not just trying to teach basically how to get better at StarCraft 2, because I feel you can say a lot of rules, like, oh, you do this build. And then understanding that build can help you. But let's say you want to do a different build, or the whole game changes, there's a new version. That knowledge isn't worth so much anymore. Trying to memorize certain aspects of StarCraft, like memorizing what to do, I feel is not the aim of the show. I'm not trying to stick little facts of what to do in your brain. The goal of this show here, more so than pretty much any other content you'll find in StarCraft 2, is I'm trying to take general strategy and tactics and teach those through the medium of StarCraft 2. Right? And so the idea is if you understand strategy and tactics, no matter what situation you're in, you'll be able to make a more informed and better Game 3-wise decision going forward. So, and I don't always accomplish that, because sometimes I just break it down like, this is what you do in this position. And, you know, sometimes they have to do that. But the goal is to teach general strategy and tactics, and especially Game 2 here, I think is going to be a really great way to do that. So, as we go into this game, let's try to focus on exploring that general idea of how to move around the map, when to attack, when to defend, and the type of things to look at when making these decisions. So we'll jump into Game 2 of the series, and a couple things we're going to look at are going to be, first, a really interesting build that Seed does. It is kind of unique, at least especially for those of you who kind of take a wings to everybody mindset into the Hardest Swarm games. Then we'll talk about how to use mobility to gain a superior position, and then also how to defend Zerg aggression. And remember, tweet me any questions at axslav. Answer all the questions at the end of the show, so feel free to tweet me, you know, whatever questions you guys have about anything, especially strategy and tactically related, because that's what I love the most. But whatever you guys want to ask, go ahead and ask it. So coming to this game, we're going to take a look at this from Seed's point of view. Of course, he's got that Mothership Core Scout going in here. Just checking out his opponent, trying to figure out what's going on. And the build he's doing is really cool. So we'll play it from here. And what he's doing, if you look at the production tab, very fast Twilight Council, right? And the goal of this is to get very fast upgrades, and he can get Blink and Storm Tech very fast as well. And going forward in this build, what he's going to aim to do, beyond just those fast upgrades and fast tech, he's also going to try to take a fast third base. So generally taking a base before a 10-minute mark is considered fairly quick in PvZ, taking that third before 10 minutes. I mean, there's super fast ones he can do at the 7-8 minute mark, but, you know, he's trying to prioritize upgrades as well. As we can see here, in 9:30, he's already started ground weapons +2. He's already started Blink, and he's taking a third base. So he's kind of doing everything. And this is all off of just 2 gateways. All he has is 2 gateway production. That's all he has, cranking out upgrades, cranking out tech, cranking out a third base. Well, just a second. There you go. There's a third base. Very, very, very late game focused investments here. Now, in Wings of Liberty, trying to do all this, and then at the same time, now he's even teching for a Storm as well, Templar Archives, would be considered very greedy, right? But the way to come up with builds in a new game is try to get away with as much as possible, right? And see if you can do it. And with the Mothership Core Time Warp, with all the sentries he built early, with the scouting knowledge he had through using hallucination, through using the Mothership Core Scout, Photon Overcharge on Nexus, you know, I think he can get away with it. And it's always a tough question, can you or not? The only way to do it is to try. And if someone does a build like this to you and it works, and you say, oh, you won because you're too greedy, that's no fair, that's not the right way to think. The way to think is, if he can get away with that, what can I get away with? And always try to make your builds more on the edge, try to macro more aggressively, try to get away with everything you can. And then if you lose a game doing it, don't automatically assume you lost it because you're being too greedy. Maybe you lost it because you could have had a little better force fields. Or if you macro better, you would have had 2 more sentries, and that's all it would have taken. So it's not always the build's fault. There's a lot of exploring to be done. Now let's back this up just a little bit and talk about the next cool tactical point, and that's we talk about how greedy kind of Seed opened, right? And now coming in from Sniper's point of view, Sniper knows, I mean, he had Zergians kind of third base. Being a world-class Zerg player, he knew exactly what was going on the instant it happened. And he's like, well, I'm going Roach Hydra because that's just what I felt like doing. If I'm building low-tech units, I should put on some pressure and be aggressive against him because, you know, he's trying to do all this stuff. I let him get away with it. I'll end up being behind. So this is where the Zerg can try to do some good damage. And what he wants to do is he says, you know what, I have Speedlings, I have Speed Hydranists, or they're about to be Speed Hydranists, I have Speed Roaches. I'm much faster than my opponent. My opponent has 3 bases, so he's got 2 spots to defend from ground invasion. But I know he's got a lot of force fields, he's got Time Orbs and Mothership Core. I can't just charge into his army if it's holding a choke point, I'll get slaughtered. But what I can do is I can use mobility to get a superior position. So doing that, in fact, let's actually talk about the positioning over here on the map, right? He knows there's 2 spots his opponent can attack him, right? He can attack his opponent, excuse me. He can attack via this canal or via this passage up there, right? Either way, if his opponent has their army, if Seed has his army waiting, like if there's a Seed army right here, right? You can't attack through this area right here, this lower passage. You can't do it. If the Seed army is right here, you can't attack through the upper passage. So let's die to force fields, die to time warps, etc. So what he wants to do is find out where the army is. Because he also knows Seed has been so greedy. Seed's army isn't big enough where he can split it in half and cover both, because then he'll just attack one and kill the half the army, then win the game, because now the army's way smaller. So Seed has to keep his army together because it's small. It only works using those force fields as a joint, you know, keeping it all together. So he can use his mobility to figure out where the army is, and his knowledge that Seed's teching so fast, he's got no observers, he's got to save all his sentry energy for force fields because he needs them, so he can't really use a lot of hallucinations, so he can't really keep exact tabs on Sniper's army. So what Sniper does, he figures out where the army is, right, which spot it is, attacks the other location. It's that simple. It sounds obvious, but it's so rare to see Starcraft players use this idea. It's actually kind of silly. So coming in just from Sniper's position, right? He's like, well, I'll make sure to kill these rocks, because even if I want to head up here, I want to kill these rocks. And now I'm going to try to figure out where he is, right? So I'll use these speedings here. Okay, he's down here, right? So as soon as I kill these rocks, I'll charge up. I'm going to run away, right? Okay, he blinked to chase me. He's still down in this area. I have time. If I'm quick, run up here, right? Boom. And look at this. Now, instead of fighting, if Seed's army was in position, right? Instead of having a Seed's army like up here, and all of a sudden being trapped with force fields right here, right? All of a sudden he's already up. And instead of this position, right, where he's got to go through this choke, all of a sudden Seed's army is here, and Sniper is the one who can, he can have this position, right, where he can go like this. And he's got the better concave, right? I mean, force fields can mitigate that, but it's much better than trying to charge up this ramp. And that's all because he kept tabs on his opponent's army. Now, what would he have done if Seed's army was here? He would have gone to attack a third, and it would have been the same thing. And if he was attacking the third, he keeps the speedings, keep tabs on Seed's army, wherever it is. Remember, his units are faster as well, so they can reach locations. If Seed's army was up here, he would have hit the third, right? And then if he was going to attack the third, where would Seed be, right? He'd be coming down this area, he'd be back here, and then Sniper would have this angle right here, right? And all of a sudden, he can even back up and knock out the Nexus. He has so many good positions and things he can do. So, no matter what, if you know your opponent has a small force, they've got to keep it together. Use that mobility, keep tabs of the army, attack where it's not. So, he's coming here, he's attacking. And now this is the cool part where we can talk about from Seed's point of view, right? Now, his opponent's played well, but Seed's played very well as well. I mean, his macro's been tight. He's got a lot of sentries with energy. His Mothership Core is coming up. He's trying to wait to get some storms on his Templar, but he's got to survive for now, right? And normally, when you're a Protoss player, right, you're thinking, when I use force fields, right? Let's say I want to do force fields against this opponent's army. I want to cut off part of their army in half, right? Because that's typically just what you do. You cut their army in half. So you try to do force fields like right here, right? And trap some of the units and kill those units. But from Seed's point of view, he's like, you know what? I don't have a great concave. If I cut this army in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fight these units, right? We'll be fighting these units. And it'll be roughly equal forces fighting, even with great force fields. So if it's equal forces fighting, what if he's committing to this? What if there's 30 more speed orches rally behind it? I can't afford to go blow for blow with this Zerg. Well, I'm making all these investments in, you know, +3 weapons, size storm, my production. I don't have a ton of warp gates quite yet because I've been trying to macro up. Instead, what I want to do, delay the battle. So ideally, he'd get one more force field here and trap all those Zergins. You know, not quite perfect though. Didn't get that. But the main idea is, yes, it's nice to trap units. But when you're trying to buy time, what you're really focusing on is making sure the battle is delayed and making sure your units aren't too vulnerable. And the nice thing about this is if Sniper tries to run up and get the natural, right, that's where the Mothership Core can come into handy. Maybe the sentries can't quite get into range to cut off this area up here with force fields, but Mothership Core can come up here. Where is he? Get up there, Mothership Core. Hurry! Hurry! There he goes. He's going up. And then he's going to lose some buildings, but if he tries to run up this ramp, you can put Photon Overcharge here. You can warp in units here, and they're going to get stuck in a very bad spot, right? So you can see their Mothership Core comes up here, puts the Photon Overcharge on, can put a Time Warp here as well. There's a lot of things you can do to really, and a little bit of a late Time Warp there, but there's a lot of threats you can do to keep them away from you. And again, the force fields, not trying to trap units, right? You can say, hey, those are terrible force fields. He could have cut this army in half like that, right? Or in fact, let me just actually... He could have cut the army in half using force fields, and it would have been nice, right? Because all of a sudden he would have had this situation, right? Where he cuts these in half right here. But if he cut those in half, right? Again, look at the concaves. Because of... Oh, this is all because Sniper got the better position using mobility, which is a really cool thing. So he would have been fighting these units, and it would have been fighting with approximately these units. So again, it would have been equal trade, which may be okay in this situation because look at the production tab, just a few speedlings and an infestation pit. But if he was doing like a Stefano, just throwing roaches and hydras like a maniac at him, you don't want to be trading units. You want to let your army build up first. And so, because if you trade units, the Zerg can rebuild faster than you if they're committing fully to that push, which Seed has no idea what Sniper's doing. So, great use of the... I mean, in force fields, you can cut off a tiny bit, ideally, but you really don't want to risk cutting off too much. And with the concaves as they are, better be safe. Just keep them back. Because all you're trying to do is buy time to get the Storm. Now he's got Storm, right? And now he's going to put his army right here because he doesn't know which base will be attacked. He's trying to rebuild some walls so the units can't run by so fast. And now this time when his opponent comes up again, all of a sudden, he's got the Storm. He's out of force fields, but just in time, he bought enough time to get these massive Storms out. And I mean, the Storms are beautiful there. He's just, combined with some Blink Micro, the Nexus is still helping beat off some of those speedlings. You know, Warpins, Blink Micro, Archon comes in just in time. Beautiful defense by Seed there, just right on the line. And I mean, if there was a lot of roaches rallied in, he might have been in a little bit of trouble. But remember, now he's got a lot more warp gates coming up. He's got +2 weapons. He's got the Photon Overcharge. And, you know, maybe it's a little bit better force fields. He could have done that even better. But the idea is that just trying to stall time. Always, you know, when in doubt, place the force fields more conservatively. Because it's better to you know, have the force fields have nobody loses, but there's like a 20-second gap in the battle, than to all of a sudden cut off too many guys. You lose too many Blink Stalkers, and in the next wave you can't quite deal with. So, a great defense there by Seed, just really nicely done. But great positioning by Sniper too to make the most of that. I mean, Sniper put Seed in position where Seed had to do everything just right to defend, and Sniper at the same time, he didn't like doing all it, right? I mean, behind us he's been teching up, but he did commit to do some damage, and he was able to kill the sentries. He was able to trade okay here. Let's look at units lost. I mean, trading not great, but considering it was roaches and hydras against, you know, Photon Overcharges, Time Warps, and he was able to kill, you know, a gateway and some other important buildings, wasn't too bad. right? Against a combination that should be very cost and efficient, he was able to do okay with it. Just because of that superior positioning, even though Seed had those great force fields to buy time and then the amazing storms there later on. Anyways, this wraps up the first part of game number 1. We'll take a short break and do some more, game number 2, excuse me. We'll take a short break to analyze this game a little bit more.